Okay, what's your title here at Fordham?
I'm a professor of communication and media studies, and I also direct our public communications program, which is an MA program in the department, and I also direct the Peace and Justice Studies program here at Fordham, which is an interdisciplinary certificate program.
How long have you been here at Fordham?
Many years, over 20.
Oh, wow, okay. Have you ever seen or experienced any political activism among the students in the time you've been here?
Sure, regularly have quite a few students who are organizing and who do various activities, and we've had demonstrations before on campus, plenty of time.
What kind of demonstrations happened?
We were demonstrating against the invasion of Iraq, against the war on terror. We met outside of the McGinley Center. We had people reading poetry and playing music, speeches, and faculty involved. We've had quite a number of good anti-war protests.
Was the turnout good?
The turnout of the students who knew about it and were committed pretty well was 60. Plenty of students were going in and out of the McGinley Center, so it also provided us with a venue to be visible to students who weren't at the protest.
Oh, that's an awesome location. Why do you think it's important for students to be participating in these rallies and protests?
I think that it's one way to express an opinion. I think that those in power who are carrying out war should know that over 60% of the people are against the occupation of Afghanistan, particularly now. And also we can't forget that the invasion of Iraq was a really important historical moment in terms of demonstrations. 8 million people around the globe, for the first time in history, demonstrated against a war before it started. So that was very important.
Can you describe the change between the activism on campuses in the 60s and 70s compared to now? Like, do you see a big difference?
I think that the university was more of a site for demonstrations of a lot of frustration that young people were feeling. And don't forget that during that time in the Vietnam War, there was a draft, and students were angry. And the university was very important in that if you didn't get and keep a good grade point average, you could be drafted. If you graduated, you could be drafted. So it came home to young people's culture and where what they were doing in their daily lives in a way that I think the media now distances us from an occupation. We're not really aware. We go on about our daily lives, and we don't have a cost. It was very carefully engineered for these last 9 years not to show us or talk about the loss of American life, or certainly the loss of civilian life in Iraq and Afghanistan, and now in Pakistan.
Do you think that's something the media should change? Do you think we are entitled to see exactly what's going over there as American citizens?
Absolutely. I think that the media were very, shall we say, gung-ho about the war, tied their network logos to the military in red, white, and blue, and the bumpers really bumped up the war in a way that they were active participants, I think, in calling for war. And I think the consequences of that should be brought to the American public because the war is being fought in their name. I only think that that should happen, however, if it's done in a compassionate fashion and if news stories evoke empathy for those killed. I would hate to see stereotypes reinforced or demonization of the enemy in the type of dead bodies that were put on the media under the Vietnam War, where we just had a body count, and it was quite brutal. And I remember as a young kid watching bodies being carried off battle sites when I was watching television, sometimes at dinner, and it was quite disturbing. And those people were simply corpses that amounted to our winning the war, and that was a very bad way to do it.
Right. Back to when you were talking about that there were protests here, You said the faculty were involved. Was the administration like supportive of these protests? And
yes, Fordham has been, I think, active in doing various anti-war activities and teaching much about militarism and things. During the February 15th demonstrations that occurred in Manhattan against the invasion of Iraq that happened in March of 2003, we had a very large Fordham contingent that went into the streets of New York City along with all the other protesters, but we had the Fordham flag and we marched down 2nd Avenue, and it was a very broad coalition from Fordham of professors and students.
Wow, I didn't even know that happened.
There you go.
Wow. And it was like advertised on campus and everything?
It was.
Wow, that's awesome. Have you heard about the Maroon Square that went through, that USG was trying to approve?
No, tell me about it.
It's basically certain areas of the campus where you can say, it's like a safe zone where you can say anything you want to say. And like it's partly to like allow protests to happen or like rallies to happen, but it never actually passed through USG. It's kind of like on the back burner, and I talked to someone at USG and they said they have more important things to deal with. Like, what is your response to that?
I think that the university should be a site for freedom of speech in general. I don't have anything theoretically against a permit. In practice, the way, I think what happens is it's difficult to organize an event. Students are very busy. When you get together and you do an event that comes out of a student organization, which is a collective, there's a lot of decision making that go on that, and rightly so. There should be a lot of discussion. It takes time to produce a flyer. It takes time to think about where you're going to have it. And if you don't get the permit in a timely fashion, you're not going to get your flyer out. So this process can be, if delayed, an impediment to doing activities on campus.